21 quotes about central banking that show why the Federal Reserve must be shut down, Michael Snyder reports. We have come to accept that we are permanently trapped in an endless cycle of debt and money creation. But the only reason why debt and money grow at an exponential rate is because that is what our system was designed to do. The Federal Reserve and other central banks around the globe were created with a purpose. The goal was to get humanity into as much debt as possible, and those holding that debt just keep getting wealthier and wealthier. Unfortunately, we have trained to not even question this deeply insidious arrangement. Over the past several decades, our money supply has been growing at a pace that we have never seen before, and once the pandemic hit, the growth of money supply went into overdrive. This was the cost of living, is why the cost of living is so oppressive today. And there is simply way too much money floating around. Over the past several decades, our national debt has also been growing at an exponential rate. The system is designed to produce debt faster than it produces money, and that is why it will never be possible for us to pay off the national debt. Sadly, most Americans don't even understand what the Federal Reserve is. One thing that the Federal Reserve is not is a government agency. In fact, it is about as federal as Federal Express. It's a private central bank designed to make money for the people who created it. In fact, the Federal Reserve was the accumulation of an effort by the international banking elite to force a permanent private central bank on the American people that began all the way back during the days of our founding fathers. But don't just take my word for it. The following are 21 quotes about central banking from past presidents, congressmen, and other notable historical figures. Number 1, John Adams, the second president of the United States, said all the perplexities, confusion, and distress in America arise not from defects in their Constitution or Confederation, not from want of honor or virtue, so much as from the downright ignorance of the nature of coin, credit, and circulation. Number 2, James Madison said, history records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance. 3, Thomas Jefferson said, I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous than our liberties than standing armies. Already they have raised up a moneyed aristocracy that has set the government at defiance. The issuing power of money should be taken away from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. 4, Abraham Lincoln said, the money powers prey upon the nation in times of peace and conspire against it in times of adversity. It is more despotic than a monarchy, more insolent than autocracy, and more selfish than bureaucracy. It denounces as public enemies all who question the methods or throw light upon its crimes. I have two great enemies, the Southern Army in front of me and the bankers in the rear. Of the two, the one at my rear is my greatest foe, Abraham Lincoln said. Number 5, James A. Garfield said, whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce. Number 6, Woodrow Wilson said, a great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the world, no longer a government of free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of small groups of dominant men. Number 7, Mayor Amschel Bauer Rothschild said, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. Number 8, Horace Greeley said, while boasting of our noble deeds, we're careful to conceal the ugly fact that by an iniquitous money system, we have nationalized a system of oppression, which, though more refined, is not less cruel than the old system of chattel slavery. Number 9, Sir Josiah Stamps, the former president of the Bank of England, said, bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create money and control credit, and with a flick of a pen, they will create enough to buy it back. Number 10, Rothschild's Brothers of London, 1863, said the few who understand the system will either be so interested from its profits or so dependent on its favors that there will be no opposition from that class. Number 11, Charles A. Lindbergh, Sir Lindbergh, in 1913 said, the Federal Reserve Act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the President Wilson, signed this bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetuated by this banking and currency bill. Number 12, Charles A. Lindbergh, Sir Lindbergh, in 1923 said, the financial system has been turned over to the Federal Reserve Board. That board administers the finance system by authority of a purely profiteering group. The system is private, conducted for the sole purpose of obtaining the greatest possible profits from the use of other people's money. Number 13, Congressman Louis T. McFadden said, the Federal Reserve banks are one of the most corporate institutions the world has ever seen. There is not a man within the sound of my voice who does not know that this nation is run by the international bankers. Number 14, Congressman Louis T. McFadden in 1932, just before FDR began his first term, said, we have in this country one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board. This evil institution has impoverished the people of the United States and has practically bankrupted our government. It has done this through the corrupt practices of moneyed vultures who control it. Number 15, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, the real truth of the matter is, as you and I know, that the financial element in the large centers has owned the government of the United States since the days of Andrew Jackson. Number 16, Eustace Mullis said, as soon as Mr. Roosevelt took office, the Federal Reserve began to buy government securities at the rate of $10 million a week for 10 weeks and created $100 million in new checkbook currency, which alleviated the critical famine of money and credit, and the factory started hiring people again. Number 17, Congressman Wright Patman, Congressional Board, September 30th, 1941, said, the Federal Reserve Bank buys government bonds without one penny. Number 18, Senator Barry Goldwater said, most Americans have no real understanding of the operation of the international money lenders. The accounts of the Federal Reserve System have never been audited. It operates outside the control of Congress and manipulates the credit of the United States. Number 19, Henry Ford, it is well that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. Number 20, Lewis versus United States, 680 F. 2nd, 1239, 9th Circuit in 1982 said, the regional Federal Reserve banks are not government agencies, but are independent, privately owned, and locally controlled corporations. Number 21, Boston Federal Reserve Bank said, when you or I write a check, there must be sufficient funds in our account to cover the check, but when the Federal Reserve writes a check, there is no bank deposit on which that check is drawn. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is creating money. Why isn't this one of the biggest political issues in the country today? The Federal Reserve is at the center of the controversy over central banking that has been around since the very beginning of the United States. Unfortunately, the Federal Reserve System is so incredibly complex, and the American people have been so dumbed down, quote unquote, that the vast majority of the population literally has no idea how our system really works. If we do nothing, things will continue to get even worse for ordinary Americans. In 2001, 17 million people were on food stamps. Today, more than 42 million people are on food stamps. Food stamp enrollment has increased significantly in recent decades. In fiscal year 2023, 42.1 million Americans received food stamps. This is 2.4 times the 17.3 million who were enrolled in year-ending financial year 2001. As the number of people receive food stamps benefits has increased, the percentage of U.S. population enrolled has also increased. In fiscal year 2023, 12.6% of the total U.S. population received food stamp benefits. This is more than double the 6.1% in year ending 2001. 1 out of every 4 children in America now gets assistance from food stamps each month. In fact, it's projected that half of all U.S. kids will be on food stamps at some point in their lives. Our entire system is designed to funnel wealth to those at the very top of the pyramid at the expense of everyone else. I have been writing about the evils of the Federal Reserve System for more than a decade, but sometimes it feels like I'm banging my head into a wall. What will it take for the American people to finally wake up? This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. About the author, Michael Snyder's new book, Why, is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophets of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the most important news, and he always freely, happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.